everybody. It's Marvin Hudson with Viewpoint Financial. We're here with Dave Maupin, who is a financial advisor, a very well-known person in our community of Redlands that's in Southern California in what we call the Inland Empire. Dave, welcome. We appreciate you being here with us.
Hey, thanks, Marvin. It's great to be here.
So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I came to Redlands almost a half a century ago. I left a Navy career where I was teaching Navy ROTC midshipmen up at Stanford University. I was 30 years old, and I'd always wanted to be a career naval officer like my father, who was my hero in World War II, Korean War as a Navy pilot, flying airplanes off of aircraft carriers. And when both my children were born at the Stanford Hospital, I realized that I wanted to be a father more than I wanted to be a patriot and warrior. And my parents had settled here in Highland nearby, and I wanted to have my children grow up near grandparents. One was in diapers, one was 3. And it was the best decision we ever made because, as you know, Marvin, we have great schools, cultural opportunities, and sports programs for the kids here in Redlands. So I started by buying a franchise of offering record-keeping, bookkeeping services to mom and pop, tiny businesses, real estate offices, grocery stores, tiny supermarkets and gas stations, things like that. And that grew into an income tax practice over 10 or 15 years. And then I realized that with my income tax practice, my clients weren't really getting good investment advice. I'd refer them to my friends who were stockbrokers. That was the terminology at the time. Right. When I did their tax returns the following year, I was concerned and upset sometimes that they weren't getting the best advice, in my opinion. And I wanted to take better care of them and give them better referrals. And I decided I could do it myself. So I took the 2 years to work on this certified financial planning degree, if you will. So now that I'm a CFP professional, and that gives me a broad understanding of not only estate planning and tax planning and retirement planning, but risk management and other areas as well. So, and that allowed me then to begin planning for their personal finances as well. So that's how I became Maupin Financial Advisors. I'd sold off those 2 early businesses, the bookkeeping and the income tax practices, to local professionals. Right. And now I focus solely on just working with my clients' investment portfolios.
Okay. And that is interesting, that growth from stage to stage is interesting. Was there anything in specific, because you covered what got you into financial planning, was there anything early on, once you made that transition, once you made that addition really to your business and then sold off the other 2, but once you made that transition, was there anything in specific that happened early on that caused you to say, I am so glad I did this? I wanted to, whether or not it was a client that you helped very specifically or some general impact that you saw that yourself having?
Yeah, I could identify a common theme. As an income tax practitioner, I was what's called an enrolled agent. I took a 2-day national exam to become an income tax expert some years ago. And I had a large, very busy practice each tax season. And so many times my clients would come in and say, Dave, as much as I like you and your business ethics here, but this kind of feels like going into a dentist office. It's so painful. So as you might know personally, there's a lot of negative energy associated with the IRS and running a business, doing your taxes.
Yes.
Okay. And so the aha moment for me was that as I grew more and more into financial planning, I realized it was a very positive energy program or a career profession to follow, unlike doing income taxes. And so that was the aha moment that kept me going. And more importantly, too, there's much more creativity in financial planning. Everybody's very different. There's no cookie cutter solutions like there is on a tax form, perhaps, but everybody has unique needs. And it's important that we, in this profession, we learn to recognize those and develop a way for them to achieve their dreams.
I can see that, and I can see how that creativity side keeps one even that much more engaged, because it's not fill out step A, go to step B, go to C. You add a lot of some art to that in addition to the science that exists.
Marvin, just on a personal note, I've referred clients to you over the years, as you know. And I've learned that about you too, is that you do offer creative solutions, and that it's not just a loan that you're making for your clients. It's the way that you make the loan happen for your clients, and that sets you above all the other practitioners in our area. Has been my experience.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. I was going
That's
to.
an unpaid for solicitation, just FYI.
That is true, ladies and gentlemen. He was not paid for this promotion. Thank you. So, Dave, that is so true, though, and that's what I've enjoyed about my field, is that creativity allows for and is required in order to be successful for each client for their own individual goals. So, thank you for that. And toward that actually dovetails right into what I wanted to ask you next. What is that? What is being used now as a popular catchword? What is your superpower? What is it that you do that helps identify you very specifically, how you're able to help others that that you bring to the table, probably more so than others in your field?
Well, I'm not sure that I know what others do. For the most part, we have a fairly a standard practice of discovering what a client needs, then developing solutions to what they need. However, I've noticed, though, that one of my great pleasures is getting a person's trust. And when you have trust, you can instantly open up a conversation. You think about how vulnerable you are when you come in to talk to somebody about money. There's very few people in your life you talk to about money. And so sometimes I make the analogy with my clients. Well, it's kind of like the doctor says, take your clothes off, I'm going to give you an exam. And so I'm having you uncover your balance sheet, your assets, right?
I know that very well in my field. Yeah.
So anyhow, the ability to get to that discussion quickly and let people feel that they're understood and that I'm talking at their level are all things that allow us to be successful with our clients in this kind of a business. All right, and think about it though. In a small town like we live in, 70,000 people in Southern California is a small town, but it's word of mouth referrals. And so when people ask, they ask, well, who do you trust? And so often I've learned that that's how my name comes up a lot. And I'm very blessed to have that moniker.
Well said, Dave. I think it comes down to that question or some variation of that question of who do you trust. It's not, well, who do you know that can? It often actually distills down to who do you trust, and who would you refer your mother to for this, or is this how you would do this for yourself? Yeah. It's the answers to those kind of questions that actually lead to the building of the depth of the relationship you have with your client.
Amen, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, so in that, is there one particular strategy or maybe a set of particular strategies that you use when you're doing your job for your clients?
No. As I said, everybody's is truly unique, and there's no cookie cutter solution. One of the great joys about this business, though, is that I meet with people who are getting married, and we talk about budgeting. And then they have the first child, and I talk about a college fund. And then they're at work, and their employer offers a retirement plan, and I can help them make good selections. They retire, and then we roll over that retirement account, and I take care of that for them in their retirement years. And then when they pass away, their kids come to me, and we talk about estate planning. So I've had some clients for 30, even 40 years, and they truly are family. And I go to the funerals, and I send off baby presents sometimes. So that's what I enjoy most about the business, is the fact that we do become family because of this vulnerable trusting issue of talking about money. So that's my answer as to why I don't have a standard approach.
And I can see that makes sense. It seems to be a rule of thumb that is applicable in a lot of different industries that may or may not work on a client per client basis, right? But other than that, yeah. Is there a specific client type or profile that you find either is through your advertising, marketing, outreach efforts that you find that you end up targeting, whether by intentionally or unintentionally, or that you see that is who comes in the door that may fit that particular profile that maybe outnumbers the other types more often than not?
I don't think so, because I have a business background. I have a master's in business administration also. I get a lot of business owners as clients, but then I have their families too, and their children when they go off to college and then go off to work. So that's and I cynically, or not cynically, I flippantly, humorously say sometimes, as long as you can fog a mirror, you're a potential client. And the reality is, like you do, we give a lot of our time away because you want to help people, and not everybody can afford you, but we use our wisdom to help these people, and realize that if we give them good service, give them more than they expect, at some time when they win the lottery or have another inheritance, they'll come back to talk to us about actually investing money that they didn't have the first time they came around. I think that's what I love about Redlands. There's not a bad financial planner in town, and you and I can name off all the ones we know, and they all operate that way. I'm pretty sure.
I would have the same words coming out of my mouth. I think they probably all operate that way. It gives you comfort in that, and that's what also contributes to making this town, our area, what it is, and how you spoke of it during the beginning of this.
Yeah, but sadly, at the same time, there's all the bad apples in the industry that make the national headlines, like Bernie Madoff or the crypto crazy guy of recent time. And so that people are a little nervous when they come in because of those sorts of things. They want to get to know you.
It goes back to that trust.
David.
Yeah, it really does. So one of my standard questions is, what do you feel that you do that sets you apart? But I think we really covered it in a couple of the answers that you've already given because of how you've expanded on that. So let me ask you, is there a favorite story that you have, because you spoke so directly toward helping those in the different stages, those who are newly married and then maybe they're putting aside monies for a new home purchase or whatever the case may be, or the next generation you're helping. Is there a particular favorite story that you have?
Yeah, I've got lots of those. It's hard to find one, but I can reflect back on how for some 20 years I would go and talk to the graduating doctors at Loma Linda University. And they had huge student debts, and they'd always want to know the magic of getting out of student loan debt, of course. And I've learned to talk in sound bites that people can remember. It's fun for me to see how those sound bites stick. So I say outrageous things to get their attention. I do it for teenagers also. I take teenagers. We have a high school club called Compact that you are aware of. And so I'll take 20 teens into my house once a year. I give them a 2-hour seminar on inside secrets on how to become a millionaire. And they think I'm going to give them great stock tips. But what I do is I teach them the things that mom and dad have taught them or should have taught them. So I'll say, you're not going to, to the doctors, I say the same thing. To get out of student loan debt, don't buy anything shiny until you've paid off the debt. So that's the point. If you want to buy a used car, all you need is reliable transportation. Everybody wants a shiny red car.
Right.
But that's all you need. So you have to kind of readjust that. You can perhaps afford those later on, but right now, your goal is to get out of student loan debt. And so how do you create the margin to build up the down payment for your first house or to get out of student loan debt? You're going to eat beans, drink water, and live in your scrubs, is what I tell the doctors. Just be as frugal. And to the teens, I said, well, your buddies want to go to Starbucks and meet for coffee. Well, that's $5 or $6 or $7 to do that. But Starbucks has free water. So socialize, enjoy the water. But if you've not met yet my other goal for you, which is the way to live a successful, wealthy life, not a rich, I want to make a distinction between being rich and wealthy. And I don't want you to focus on earning money. I want you to be a generous person, because those are the true riches in life, to learn how to give your money away. So I'll say to them, here's the easy formula. You'll remember this the rest of your life. You every dollar you make, you give 10% to God, or your favorite charity. You give 10% towards your retirement account, and you live joyfully on the rest. So that creates a
Good
discipline.
advice.
But then when you learn that if you want to be generous, you've got to make it a priority. And the Bible teaches us, for example, that your first fruits, the first part of your checkbook, should go off to that tithe to the church or whatever your generosity is for yourself. So those are things that I tell kids, and those are so the favorite story that comes back is I'm walking down the street one day, and so one of my doctors who was a resident stops me on the street and says, "You don't remember me? I was in Scrubs. I saw you 25 years ago, but I still have not bought anything shiny." So they remember the story.
And I'm sure along with that, inside of that 2-hour conversation you have with those students, it may include the guidance of, that used car that you buy, hold on to that thing until it's paid off, not only until it's paid off, but try to hold on to it for maybe 10 years. I remember a conversation you and I had a couple decades ago, probably, about that.
Yeah, I used to take them out in my garage and show them my 23-year-old Audi. And I would say 20 years in those. Now I say keep it for 10 years because technology has advanced so much. Cars are much safer over a 10-year period of time.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it makes a difference nowadays. Technology moving at the speed that it does change that a little bit, but still.
Yeah.
So Dave, we've spoken toward how you help guide those to begin on their path toward wealth, and then maybe generational wealth, by helping them begin to set aside money for those things that are important to them, which I assume would include home ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Does any portion of your total clientele makeup also focus on set-asides for the purchases of second homes or investment property that, they may circle back with the other people that you have, maybe refer them to within your sphere on that CPA side, as you guys look to help as a full circle? Like, for example, you may send somebody to me to maybe refinance their primary residence because they need to lower their interest rate or do a debt consolidation or whatever. And during that conversation, they may say something like, we have been wanting to invest in property too. Then we have that conversation. I outline for them maybe what their total cash investment might look like. They'll come back to you, and you look to help them potentially frame their finances so that they can afford that.
Yeah, very much so. Here we are in November of 2023. Mortgage rates are still close to 88%. And the inventory of homes here in Redlands is like maybe 65 homes. It's really low. So there's huge demand and not much access. And yet it's frightening for a first-time home buyer to meet today's prices. But last night at 9 o'clock, I got a phone call from a dear friend about a similar subject when we talked about the fact that his business has become quite successful. He has strong cash flow. He has a couple rental properties already. And should he invest some money in financial securities right now at this market? But he was looking at a house nearby in Yucaipa, and he gave me the parameters on the house and why he was buying it. And because I know him well enough to know his real estate history, I suggested that his greater strength was in investments for the long term in rental real estate, and that he should pursue that as opposed to financial securities. And because I did income taxes for so long, I learned before I became a sophisticated investor myself that the people in their retirement years who were the most comfortable were the ones that had rental property. Because here, as you know, with real estate, you have increasing equity with appreciation, decreasing debt because you eventually pay off that. That's the ideal. And you have cash flow that is somewhat tax protected. It's an ideal investment. So I pitch real estate all the time to my clients. Not everyone, of course, can do that. It's always too expensive today. But I always tell them also, Marvin, look back 10 years and you'll be so happy that you stretch to make the down payment, that you stretch monthly to make the monthly payments, and all the maintenance that you did. Real estate in Southern California is always a sure to investment.
So true. Great guidance that you give.
And do you remember the time that John Hewson, the Inland Empire economist, came to our Rotary Club and he says, okay, imagine this about property values, okay? Go to the Pacific Ocean, put your toes in the ocean and start walking backwards. The further inland you come, the cheaper the real estate is, right? And that's where we are. Yeah, you remember
That's where we are.
that? Yeah.
It's so true. I remember that. Yeah, John did so much work, so much good detailed work. I remember so much of his information informed the newsletter that I used to send out from the mortgage brokerage side, the mortgage industry side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that.
And
Very
think
well.
how prescient he was in terms of what's happening in Beaumont and Banning right now. That east of us, for your listeners, that area has just really boomed with real estate.
Yep.
Because of the cheaper land prices. Yeah.
That's right. I remember the projection at one time of being, 50,000 new individual family units moving out that way within, blank period of time. And we've seen that come to
Yeah,
pass.
right.
It's fantastic. So Dave, we've gone, I think, a good period of time. Is there anything in here that you can think of that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share before we close?
I always talk, as I told you, in sound bites, but also common sense. And I'm a disciplined person. I was walking at 4:30 this morning for 4 miles. I take lunch off. I walk across the street to the Y. And I tell people that there's no magic formula for getting out of debt, for getting your spending under control to achieve wealth. If you start saving 10% of your income in your 20s, you'll be a multimillionaire by the time you're in your 60s. Now, not everybody comes to me then, but nevertheless, if you come to me in your 30s, I say, well, you got to start saving 15% of your income. And if it's in your 40s, you're going to do 20 or 25% to get you to become a multimillionaire, because you need to be that. No one has a golden handshake and a watch anymore and a pension plan. It's whatever you send ahead. So you have to start sending that money ahead right now to take advantage. Here's my quotation, Albert Einstein. Besides E equals MC squared, which we all had in physics class in high school, right? He said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yes.
Which is why you parents have to get your kids out there investing.
There you go. And that is a perfect thing on which to close, David.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure having you, and it's always a great time that we have talking together when we're talking about a variety of things.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on here, David. Appreciate it.
God bless you.
And you. Good night.